Welcome to the Backyard Astronomer podcast, where we talk astronomy, space, and science. From the Rockstar Studios, and brought to you by the Rockstar Group and Manzanita Insurance, I am Adam England, the Backyard Astronomer. I'm here with Eric Edelman, the director of the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University's Jim and Linda Lee Planetarium. Is that all correct? I know it's a mouthful.
Oh, yes. There's always a few words that get slipped by, but they didn't slip by you. No, that's all correct.
As long as we got it correct there. Well, thanks for taking the time to be with us today. I know you've got a really interesting story on how you got to where you are and the facility that you work with and manage, the technology there. So I wanted to start off by asking you about your childhood, how you got into space and science and technology.
Yeah, I can't say it's the path that's the most common, but I always love to hear everybody's stories because there are a lot of unique ones out there. For me, the big thing that I always enjoyed as a kid was stories, telling stories, listening to stories, reading stories. The Scholastic Book Fair was always the best thing in my life.
Of course.
And so a lot of how I digested new information was in hearing it in story form. And so initially when I was introduced to astronomy, it was a lot through equations and memorizing certain terms, and it never really stuck with me very well until I got into college and I stumbled across Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, now here is astronomy in a story, and what a story it was. All of a sudden, you're getting the most amazing story of the universe. You're hearing about black holes, about planetary nebulae, how our universe came to be what it was. And all of a sudden, I had to ask myself, why had I never been excited about this before? I had never really had astronomy introduced to me from my own lens. And so all of a sudden, I was on a path of how can I make astronomy more accessible for people of all backgrounds, of people that maybe those equations didn't stick with them like they didn't stick with me at first. And so then I started to learn the equations and go into the degree program to try and get myself to a platform where I could try and create open, accessible moments of astronomy for as many people as possible. For whatever ways you could capture them, I was going to try and see if there was unique ways to get them into it. And so,
how old were you when you read that book and you kind of had that mindset shift?
Oh, it was right about 19 or 20.
So almost like early adulthood, not an early childhood change.
Yeah, and so I think that for a lot of people, it's a lot easier to get into astronomy when you love it from the point when you were a kid, so you can focus on getting all those fundamental skills of physics and math that are shown to be important for really understanding it on a deep level. But I don't think that always has to be the case. I think there can be a lot of different pathways in if you're not excited about math or if you are excited about math. There's different ways to do it. And so I went into the field of first a company called SLU that wanted to be the essentially the ESPN of astronomy. So,
which we still will log on to SLU when there's a cool event happening and you can see, hey, there's a comet, and SLU's streaming it or whatever it is.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, if there's a live event, having that telescope feed and those talking heads giving you the point by point of what is going on in the sky at that time. So I was the producer of the show, so I was lining up guests and making talking points and all that stuff. But then I pivoted into the museum field. I worked at the Morrison Planetarium over in San Francisco for a little bit, learning from some of the greats of how to communicate astronomy to diverse audiences. And then, the amazing opportunity happened here in Prescott of a planetarium being built and folks looking for somebody to build up an entire planetarium operation from scratch. I raised my hand. Somehow I got it. So I am here 4 years on now, working on this planetarium day by day. It's certainly been interesting with openings and closures due to world events, but we've stuck by it for all the time since August of 2017, and we're continuing to move forward.
Now, I came at some of your first shows, and we've had some private events with the Astronomy Club and some other things at the planetarium, but a lot of people don't even know what a planetarium is.
Yeah.
What is a planetarium?
Well, I can say that the people that don't know what a planetarium is are not alone. I recently had to tell my brother the difference between a planetarium and observatory. So even in my family, it can be a confusing.
Wait, so an astronomer and astrologer aren't the same thing?
No, they're exactly the same thing. Oh no, my heart hurts a little bit. Yeah, so the difference in, I think a lot of people come in and they expect the observatory concept, which is that there's a dome above your head and it opens up and it shows the stars not only to yourself, but a incredible work of mechanical art, a telescope that can either send you those views as a person in real time, or some processing needs to happen. But with a planetarium, we keep the ceiling closed and bring the stars in that we have projection technology that through the ages has grown and evolved. Right now, it's what we have is one of the more state-of-the-art digital projection systems, which gives you a 4K resolution of the stars and whatever else we want to visualize. So it can also be IMAX movies. We brought those to the dome as well. But yes, it's not opening the dome, but it might feel like it does after a while.
Yeah, because from the outside, when you drive up, even as you're driving down Willow Creek Road in Prescott, you can see that dome off to the side.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people probably come in thinking that it is more of like the observatory concept.
And because, you have that classic dome shape for the observatories for both. They do share that. But
and then you get inside and there's these inclined seats and soft glow lighting, and it's a pretty magical experience.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoy it. Yeah, we try at every point to make it this immersive time where the dome sort of simulating that view of the sky above your heads, that it's this giant hat that's been rested upon your shoulders, and the seats letting you relax at the same time. We have a number of people that when they come into the planetarium, they have the greatest experience of a nap, and that's fine too. The seats are comfortable. So however people want to enjoy their planetarium experience, whether it is flying through the universe or flying through their dreams, that's okay with us.
That's your personal narrating, soothing voice.
Oh, my voice can be a problem for people in that it sometimes it's a little too relaxing. I can say that we've done a lot of work. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to open our doors for the public at this time, but we've been doing a lot of work for the students that are currently on Embry-Riddle campus. And one of the new shows that we've released for them is one that's called Relaxation Under the Stars, that was made in concert with the Wellness Center on campus. And so it's very relaxing views of different parts of the universe, while we have a very relaxing voice telling you wellness strategies and how to breathe and pausing for long periods of time. And so I have student ushers that work for me in the planetarium, and I warn them ahead of time, for your shift today, your biggest challenge will be staying awake. Here are some strategies for you to do so as you're sitting in your chair, keeping us all safe.
And so you're showing images with the audio files at the same time. Oh. And I assume that's like nebulas and galaxies. And
so we go to a couple of fun. One of them is for the show, flying through Saturn's rings.
Oh, wow.
Where we fly through a few star fields. We do a little bit of proper motion showing off of that, of just fast-forwarding time to millions of years per second and just watching as the stars move around. We move closer and farther away from Earth. So we do a few things there as we're saying, hey, let's count our breaths and relax.
That's awesome. Now, I've seen shows at the planetarium where you're traveling through the rings of Saturn, something
Yes.
like that. But then also you can take it into kind of a microscopic level. You were, I believe, going through the human body at one point. So there's a lot of other factors. It's not just space necessarily, but it's a really unique way, a really unique medium to present to the public many diverse topics.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's what is the limit is what you can imagine and what you have the power to visualize. So there's been historically in planetariums, there used to be this star ball in the center of the theater, an optomechanical projector that was very, very good at what it did, which was projecting the stars, projecting the orbital motion of the planets, and if you had a complex enough one, maybe the moon too, things like that. And now moving into digital projection, there is essentially you have this software that you can use. That the low-hanging fruit, of course, is astronomy, that you have amazing data sets that contain sort of the nearest stars closest to us in the galaxy, the Tully group of galaxies, all these different parts of the universe that we can visualize, but we also have some data sets, like you said, on the human body, on how the periodic table of elements, how the different elements on the periodic table appear, and just a lot of different ways to visualize different things, which you can't do with a star ball, that you need that digital projection to get it done. And so we have a versatility that works well on a university campus. We have all these degree programs over at Embry-Riddle, and there's lots of different ways that the planetarium ties in, not just to astronomy and space physics, but to other places as well. Like the gaming and simulation science major absolutely loves us. There's high ideals, high dreams, high hopes of having different gaming experiences on the dome. So what would it look like if you were to have an audience in a planetarium, and you can get 80, 100 people in there playing a game all at the same time on a giant dome? Like, what are the difficulties there, and what are the strengths that you can capitalize on for that experience? It's certainly a lot of questions.
Pushing the thresholds of like augmented reality with that.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
There's definitely VR applications to the planetarium, and it's just a matter of getting the manpower to explore all the different ways this place can be utilized. And I can say I've barely scratched the surface over 4 years of sort of capitalizing on the applications for all of the interested parties that exist, not only at Embry-Riddle, but across Prescott and the greater state of Arizona.
And a technology that's constantly evolving with your own research. The things that you are doing are kind of pushing the threshold of those boundaries. You've mentioned the digital projection as opposed to the star ball. Explain how that kind of works. What are we talking about?
So with the star ball, it was at the center of the theater, and there were different ways that you can construct it. Zeiss is the classic projector, star ball projector of yore, and some things like, in certain circumstances, the brightness of the star, correlating with the size of the hole, for example, of where it was. And it's in the center, and it projects onto the dome. Then there's digital projectors that, what they are, oftentimes, they are sort of surrounding the dome, depending on the number that you need. We have 2 digital projectors in our theater, one in the front, one in the back, and they each get sort of a half of the dome to project onto. And there's pros and cons with the different projectors. I can say, as a person that's really into the planetarium field and the odds and ends, the magical combination, the magical projector setup would be a hybrid system where you have a digital projection system and you do have an optomechanical system. Because one thing about the digital projection system is we've debuted this planetarium as the first planetarium here in northern Arizona. That this is the first one in a while that people may have experienced if they've lived in Prescott for a while.
Yeah, I think you have one there's one in Phoenix at the Science Center.
There's a few
and
down in
there's one
Phoenix.
at like U of A, ASU, but nothing like this in northern Arizona at all.
Nothing, yeah. So there is the Lowell Observatory up there, but they don't have a planetarium. They are working on what they're calling an open-air planetarium. But,
Interesting.
A lot of times we'll have people come in to this planetarium, or we did when we were open for the public, and they would come up to me afterward and say, this experience felt a little different to me than when I was in a planetarium in the 90s. And they would say, please, don't take offense, but I remember the stars in the sky in the planetarium looking a lot clearer than they did here. And there's a reason for that. The digital projection system of a planetarium is never going to be able to compete with an optomechanical projector. It's just comparing apples to oranges, and the thing that optomechanicals do so well is brilliantly, crisply, clearly project that night sky and that magic. And so a digital projection system is great and amazing at doing a whole lot of things. It just doesn't precisely do what the optomechanical projector does very well.
Okay.
So the ultimate dream is to have a hybrid system where when you're looking at the night sky, you have the optomechanical on, and then when you fly out and you want to see the planets up close or look at the Sloan Digital Sky Survey dataset, that's when you're switching to the digital projection, which has that versatility of bringing on the different datasets. And that's where you get the combined magic of a universe of digital projection in the palm of your hand and the pure beautiful night sky that will be so easy to mistake for reality of the optomechanical projector.
Wow. Okay, so you have this amazing technology to showcase these shows, and you can license them from other observatory or planetariums that have designed their own and written programs, and you guys also develop your own.
Yes, that's correct.
What's that like?
It's a whole kit and caboodle in that. So it's very true that there's ways to license programs from other companies that create what we call full dome programming. So if it's made to be shown in a planetarium, it's a full dome production. And so there are certain very select groups across the world that create these shows. And one of the groups that create shows like this was a planetarium I happened to work at back in the day, which was the Morrison Planetarium I mentioned a little earlier.
Where's the Morrison at?
It's over in the San Francisco Bay Area, right in the middle of Golden Gate Park, is where they are. It's at the California Academy of Sciences. And so they have a production group that works on shows that often focus on on astronomy or our environment or mixtures and interrelations between the two. And they have absolutely great programming that is shown by a number of planetariums across the world. And so it was great to be able to just see even just a little bit, just a pinprick peek of how they worked, and also alongside that, see the live programs that they did as well. So they also, alongside producing these full dome programs that could be licensed, they made shows that would happen within their domes just by live presenters doing their work. And that's some of the things, though, that skill set, that's something that I've brought with me to this planetarium, is creating shows that I, as a live presenter, can do in front of an audience. So for people that have seen this planetarium showing since its opening in early 2018, we had a 4-part series on the Prescott sky. We had the Prescott Spring, Prescott Summer. Those were all shows that I was able to write to be presented by myself live in a planetarium experience. So one of the reasons that we do these live programs is, there's multiple reasons for it, but a few big ones is that licensing shows is expensive, and
of course.
We have a limited budget here, particularly as a nonprofit. We're not here to make money. Particularly as the planetarium, where we're here to show off the universe and get people excited about space. And alongside that, also, as a live show, we can speak more uniquely to the area in which we exist. So one of the shows that I created sort of the latest in the group that I was able to present before everything had to close down, was Across the Visible Universe, which was a show that started at Earth, and then we continued to zoom away to get more of a sense of scale of the universe in a cosmic sense. And one of the things that I was able to do is start us at someplace very close to home. We actually started at Prescott, and then we went into the Grand Canyon, and we actually used the terrain data set that our software has to explore the Grand Canyon in the ways that we could, and sort of bringing the layers of the Grand Canyon back to sort of the cosmic distance ladder of the universe, that there's different sort of levels of that we also have to learn about that show us our history.
Which is mind-blowing once people start comprehending those distances and those size scales.
It's amazing. It's what we've nicknamed the existential crisis show, because it does cause a couple of those in the audience. But being able to start so close to home and then bring in the universe as a side, I think is something that's very powerful. It's very personal. Whereas you get these amazing productions of these shows that you license from outside groups, but they can't always speak uniquely to the demographic at which you serve. And so that's why we try in some ways to do some live programming, but also, of course, we bring in shows that have that visual magic that sometimes we can't always do without a production company here at home. So.
And having that right on campus is so neat, because I think a lot of planetariums are associated with universities, but like you said, science centers, or completely standalone. Mm-hmm. So they don't have the support of the Embry-Riddle University like you do, which is pretty neat that you can bring in, like you were saying, gaming and other avenues.
it completely changes the dynamic in that, for example, for a museum planetarium, I think you often get shows that are appealing to a wider variety of tourists that are coming through all the time. You have to have a lot of shows playing and maybe the same shows on the schedule. Whereas with this planetarium here in Prescott and on Embry-Riddle campus, we have regulars, I think maybe more than a museum might, that come back again and again. And so it's less of a huge deluge of the same programming and more of unique quality select programs that pop up throughout the year and cause, different conversations and different inspirations and collaborations. So it's always something new, always a challenge, which is, hey, my favorite way to work. So I'm happy about it.
And I think you probably get a lot of interesting questions just by the nature of when they walk from the parking lot to the planetarium. You walk through a building and you look to the sides, and there's working classrooms where they're building CubeSats, where they're working 3D printers. There's examples of prototype lunar rovers. There's a freaking helicopter hanging from the ceiling. And then you walk into the planetarium. I'm sure you have a diverse Q&A with a lot of these presentations when you are able to do them live.
Oh, yeah. And one of my favorite things to do is when I can not be the face of the planetarium, is that there are students on campus that work for this planetarium, and having them present the program and talk about their degree program. Like, hey, I'm in the space physics degree, and you can ask me after the show about cutting edge research that I might be doing on campus. Having that connection between the public residents of Prescott or beyond, being able to have that line to some of the students here, I think can be so valuable. Just a great relationship to build.
And it's been very interesting to see. I've grown up in Prescott pretty much my entire life, and Embry-Riddle was always there, but it wasn't a place I ever went to. It was like you drove down the road and there was a wall of trees and there was a turn, but we never went there until the planetarium. And it feels like that has really brought Embry-Riddle and the community of the greater Prescott area together.
That's so great to hear. And yeah, I can say that's one of the big reasons that this planetarium was built, is to foster that community relationship where maybe it hadn't been before. I can't say I knew the before times as somebody who came here when this planetarium was built, but I can say that since it was built, there has been this strong focus on developing and trailblazing in ways that we haven't before with these community relationships. And one of the greatest things for me is when we would do shows, people would come up to me and say, hey, I'm a part of this organization in the community. How can we work together? And just constantly having those conversations, they always brought in new opportunities to work with different parts of this community. It's always been great.
Which is exactly how you and I first met. And since then, I've been fortunate to participate in the SciTech Fest, which was moved onto the Embry-Riddle campus a couple years ago, and that was such a unique opportunity to bring together even more of those. You had a group of old guys with their Teslas in the parking lot talking about battery tech, and it's something that was so unique that you never would have happened before. So it's been such an awesome opportunity for the planetarium to kind of be the catalyst for that.
Planetarium is always honored whenever it can. And, the hope is hopefully that in the near future we'll be able to again soon. I can say I can't give any specifics for dates quite right now, but I can say that the hope, the dream is in early 2022. We might be starting to open our doors for the public again for weekend shows and events and the like.
Now, with the current climate,
yes,
you aren't currently open, you're temporarily closed, but you've transitioned into some other unique avenues of still integrating and communicating with the community. What kind of other things are you doing?
We've tried to do what we can. And one of the big ones is virtual programming. So what we can do is we can take our planetarium software and we can fit what usually works on a dome to a rectangle, and then we send it over to YouTube. And so what we've done recently is pretty much every month saying, hey, what's going on in the night sky right now? here's our planetarium visual of that for you. So where are the planets? What are the big eclipses and transits? What's going on? What are the meteor showers? And just giving you a resource video if you're somebody who wants to go outside and look up what are some of the things that you can see and explore. And so that's one thing that we've been doing. Another one is we've been trying to, like you were mentioning, that this valuable relationship between Embry-Riddle and the community, try and maintain that as much as possible. One of the things that we've done a few times is when the astronomy and space physics students have capstone research to present at the end of their careers, to live stream those presentations from the planetarium where people in the chat can actually ask questions live. And so a lot of times that's from professors and parents, but those are pretty much open to whoever wants to join in on those. And so coming up on our YouTube channel in December, I think there's another space physics capstone presentation coming up. So things like that, we try and give people opportunities to stay in touch. I know it's never the same as going quite under the planetarium dome, but we've
all learned to adapt and change the way that we're working with the community and interacting in our respective businesses and passions. And are these just live events that you're doing, or are they also recorded to where somebody could go back onto your YouTube channel and watch them from going into the past?
So they happen live and then they stay for a while. So depending on the event, that can be a different while. But for the Prescott Night Sky shows that we're doing monthly, my standard is that's up for a month, then it gets taken down because if somebody mistakenly watches the February night sky in December, they might end up being a little bit lost. Yeah. So we want to try and prevent that. So only the most recent night sky show stays up.
Okay.
And then, so you should generally mostly have a night sky show virtually on our YouTube channel to see, but it should only be the most recent one that we have.
And we're recording this on November 15th, 2021. I believe you have one coming up in just a couple days on the 18th. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. So if the 18th is the Thursday, yeah, that sounds right. We have these the third Thursday of every month at 6 o'clock, and that's going to be our upcoming Prescott Night Sky. So it's the Prescott November Night Sky. And this actually might be the last virtual program we have as we move toward reopening. In that December, we have a lot of that off. January, if we're moving towards reopening, would be busy with a lot of other odds and ends. So this might be the last virtual night sky for quite a while, possibly.
Well, I don't want to say I hope so, but I kind of hope so.
Yeah, me too. It's difficult to say, but yes, it doesn't have quite the same magic as being under the dome. So it would be positive to be able to bring that back.
How can people reach you? What is the easiest way, and not just you, but the planetarium? How can they follow you and your activities and the events that you have going on now and going into the future?
So there's a few great resources. One of them is our website. So prescott.erau.edu/planetarium. That's prescott.erau.edu/planetarium.
And we'll put all these in the show notes as well.
Oh, thank you. I'm just imagining people just rushing to get a
as they're driving.
And yes. Oh, yeah, on the road.
Please pay attention while you're driving.
And so that's one option where on that website, it will tell you upcoming shows and also give you the option to sign up for our mailing list, which tells you upcoming events that are going on in the planetarium from a public show perspective, but also from outreach, things like SciTech, things that you can take your kids to and all that. So there's a lot of resources there. Another place that we experimented a bit with social media, and the one that really seemed to stick, that people really seemed to like, was Facebook. So Facebook is a place where we update with a lot of our upcoming shows as well. Facebook.com/JLL Planetarium. So that's one as well. You can also get us on YouTube. Jim and Linda Lee Planetarium, I think, is the full one. But the main resource hubs would be our website, the mailing list, and Facebook.
The Facebook. I want to really thank you for being here. This has been awesome. I absolutely love the technology and the passion that you have for the planetarium and what you guys have done with the community. And I can't wait for you to be open again. It's one of my favorite things to take the kids to do. I tell everybody, hey, have you been to planetarium yet? When I have new clients that are moving here, that's one of the first things I say is, oh, go check out the planetarium. So I'm really excited for the grand reopening of the Jim and Linda Lee Planetarium at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. It's amazing how you're showcasing all the different astronomy around here. It's exciting to see how this podcast is developing.
We appreciate it. Thanks for being with us, Eric. You guys have a great one. You don't have to be a professional astronomer or have fancy equipment to see amazing objects in the night sky. You just have to know where to look. Join us next month to learn more about your binoculars, telescope in the sky, and follow the Northern Arizona Astronomical Consortium at facebook.com/NAZAstro. From the Rockstar Studios in Prescott, Arizona, I'm Adam England, the Backyard Astronomer.